Welcome to Leading Organizations That Matter, a podcast on the topics of leadership, organizational culture, and finding meaning and purpose in our work. I'm your host, Ray Spadoni, former CEO, current consultant, author, and speaker. Today's topic is entitled, Why Mergers and Acquisitions Fail. They were set up to do just that from the very start. Long title, but I think a pretty simple concept. For many nonprofit boards, stewardship of the organization's longstanding mission is job one. They take the enhancement and preservation of the mission quite seriously, and frequently that means keeping the structure, operational character, brand, and historical context intact to the greatest extent possible. Anything else would be deemed an abandonment of post, a breakdown, a total, and complete failure. Whenever I discuss future strategic options with such organizations, especially within the healthcare industry, which continues to consolidate at a pretty healthy clip, this bias is often not very subtle. For organizations that are sailing along with a good tailwind, that's usually fine. But for those struggling, there is a merger and acquisition as our last resort mentality that can permeate and dominate the board's thinking. Now, don't get me wrong, I do not dismiss this at all. Staying the course is quite frequently the very best course for these organizations to pursue. However, sometimes this mindset can also create blind spots. And so it's worth exploring whether to challenge that kind of thinking. One strategy is to affirm the meaning behind the mission. For example, one organization where I worked saw its mission as providing high quality and exceptional access for home health services to residents within inner city communities, ones often facing difficult racial disparities and lack of service availability. It was a great mission. Now, as that organization pondered its next phase, one fact became clearer and clearer to me. Several board members were focused on ensuring that the community continue to receive high quality and exceptional access to that care by the exact same organization, while others took maybe a less parochial view and thought more so about the community's fundamental needs and how best to help meet them. The board ultimately confronted this internal board friction and determined that the latter perspective was the one they wanted to collectively embrace. This decision and the entire process that led to it completely changed the outcome of their deliberations and altered the course of that organization in a positive way. But sometimes the organization-centric, you could say insular point of view prevails. When those types of organizations run into financial, operational, or regulatory difficulty and then eventually feel forced to pursue a merger or be acquired, the failure mindset becomes cemented into that organization's basic thinking. Even though no one typically states out loud, we only did this because we had to, many in that organization are going to read the tea leaves and properly detect those undertones quite accurately. They never say it explicitly, but they might as well. Eventually, when the merger or acquisition somehow takes place and is completely finalized, then there are going to be board members, executives, managers, and staff who walk into the front door of that new strategic relationship or partnership with the attitude that they've somehow failed. Now, this is not helpful to the other entity involved, though there is a corollary scenario. That is, everyone on that side of it may walk in the front door feeling as though they've won. And that can set the stage for difficult implementation and integration challenges, certainly ones that don't recognize the organization's inherent strengths, culture, and history. The antidote to all this is to ensure on both sides that there is a focus, a primary focus on what's best for the community as part of the formation process, and that this basic winner-loser dynamic is never established in the first place. Going further back in time, I would recommend that leaders and board members consider mergers and acquisitions from a position of possible strength, not as a last resort Hail Mary for their organizations. When these types of decisions are established from the very beginning as a desperation move, it's no wonder that the resulting merger or acquisition ends up failing desperately somewhere down the line. It was set up that way. That's the walking in the front door mindset, and you get what you get. Thanks for listening. I hope that you will consider subscribing to this podcast, telling your friends and your coworkers about it, and providing a review on Apple Podcasts or your podcast platform of choice. That does help quite a bit. And please feel free to learn more about me and my work at redsaleadvisors.com.